Washington Commanders, you're on the clock. We're back with our team mock draft series, and this time we're talking Washington Commanders. We'll look at a team overview, and then we're going to dive into the big thing, the reason you're here. We're mock drafting every single one of their picks in the 2025 NFL Draft pre-free agency. So the only thing that we do know so far is that they traded a bag of balls for Deebo Samuel, so they've got another really good player on that offensive side, but there's plenty more to do. Let's get to it. When we look at the current situation for Washington, they're in a really good spot. You know, they've got some young talent that they're leaning on. Obviously, they're not paying a big quarterback contract just yet, but will soon here with Jaden Daniels. They've got some talent in a lot of different spots, clearly, because they made it to the end, almost getting to the Super Bowl. So we're going to do our best to try to help this team. Now, I'm not predicting free agent moves, but I would love to hear your comments. Is there free agents that you would like to see this team go after? When we're looking at the roster as it current stands, offense has some really good skill position players. And obviously with the addition of Deebo Samuel, this team is in an even better situation. You'll see. I don't have wide receiver as a need for this team. Now, obviously, McLaurin and Deebo are getting a little bit up there in age, but they've still got some pretty solid years left in them. Plus, they've got some young depth in McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, even Zacchaeus. For some reason, Jamison Crowder still continues to hang around. And then KJ Osborne's another guy that is a younger player that could be a solid depth piece for him. So they've got plenty of different guys to fill that wide receiver room. So I don't think that's really a pressing need. And I don't necessarily see them addressing it now that they've traded for Deebo. Offensive line's got some solid pieces. I think there's some room to grow more on the defensive side, as you'll see. And as I list kind of our top needs, there's the defense is where we're going to need some reinforcements. It was solid, and I think coach and his staff did a really great job helping in a lot of ways, but I think there's some room to grow here. They did some good things, though. I like some of the young pieces that they brought in, some of the young guys that they drafted. So we're moving in the right direction. I always love to show the PFF grades of their top players, more for you guys that love those numbers. But their offense showed out really well, and their defense held its ground. I mean, that's kind of the theme of 2024 Washington. Offense overperformed, defense did its job. They made it one game before the Super Bowl. When you look at their list of free agents, they're getting rid of plenty of aging guys. You'll look at this list. We've got a majority of this top 15 players is 30 and up. And there's a lot of money tied into them. These are the bigger contracts. I always sort these the free agents that they're going to have available by contract. And you'll see there's quite a bit of money that's going to be coming off the books here, but also quite a bit of guys. They have to decide with some of these receivers that they need to decide if they're going to resign or look other places for depth. So you'll see them not as a need for me, but if they don't bring back De'Ami Brown or Noah Brown or Zacchaeus, if they kind of lean on what they've got, then maybe you do look for a late round guy that you can develop. But currently as it stands, my team needs number one, edge rusher. Number two, we need some offensive line help, probably on the outside. Maybe a guy that can flex, can do a little bit of it all and be a swing guy. Cornerback, they did a great job getting Sanders still. I think they still need at least one more. Linebacker, I think they need some help there. Obviously, depending on what they do with some of their aging veterans that are leaving, that could determine when they look at one. Tight end, obviously, we're going to need some reinforcements there. Defensive line, I put this here, but it's still probably more like edge rusher 2. We like the interior. I think they've got some nice pieces on the inside, but I think that edge rusher, maybe a guy that could flex and do a little bit of both. So I put defensive line because I still think that's a priority for him. Running back, obviously less of a need with Deebo coming in because he can do so much of that, take the ball out of the backfield or be a true wide receiver. So I think he kind of helps cover that up. Safety, and then another offensive lineman. And I broke them up into tackle and interior because you could look either direction and look for a guy that could swing and be an interior or an outside tackle. So post in the comments, what do you perceive as your team's needs? This is going to be up to perception, and obviously we know free agency is going to change things. We've got 6 picks to work with. Let's get to the mock draft. All right, on the clock at pick 29, we've got options. We've got tackles. We've got interior defensive linemen. We've got linebackers. We can grab a tight end. I'm surprised Colston Loveland's sitting here. We can look at safety. We can look at, a couple guys who really showed out well at the combine, and Hairston and Eminwari. Eminwari's the guy that I've been thinking is a late first round pick, so this would be a sweet spot for him. I'm kind of torn here. So for me, it's either DB or it's linebacker. But because I think Walker is kind of the elite of the elite of the linebackers in this draft class. I'm taking him. He's a do-it-all, sideline to sideline. He could step in and be kind of your number one linebacker, even though he doesn't necessarily have to be. You've got some good vets there. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hope that we can come back and get DB, get tight end, get something later. And on clock at pick 61, and I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to go Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. I really like, he's long, he's strong, he's really good at block shedding. I think as an edge rusher, I think he gives you everything that you could look for as an edge rusher in this defense. And he's physical. I really like what he can do at the point of attack. I think he's got strong hands. There's a lot of things to like, and I think he can play meaningful reps from year one for you. And on the clock at pick 79, we've still got offensive line help we could go after. We've got safeties we can go after. We've got, I like Donovan Jackson, but I really like Marcus Embo and Wyatt Millum, even Tate Ratledge if you want to look on the inside. I like Embo enough that I am going to take a shot at him here. I think you could probably play him inside or outside. With Embo, I think he's got that position versatility, so he kind of fills both needs, right? So if you don't love him as your tackle, you could slide him inside. I think he does well in pass protection. I think he's very agile. I think this is a player that, depending on what team needs you're expecting them to try to fill, I think he can try to fill either of them, right? Like if you really need a guard or if you really need a tackle, I think he can do both. So I'm going to take him here, and I think that's really the only thing that kind of put him above the other two for me. I like him the most of them because of that versatility. Back on the clock at pick 206. Now, obviously, we are down to our last three picks. These are developmental pieces, so we're going to look for young guys that we think could turn into something at the next level. And I think what we're going to do here is we're going to grab a tight end. I know we could have looked at one a little bit sooner, but the board fell in a way that I wanted to target other positions. Gadsden's got NFL bloodlines, right? His dad was a receiver in the league. He's a good pass catching tight end. He's a guy that I think has plus route running ability as a tight end. I think this late in the draft, you can get a guy that you can put in and potentially have him play sooner rather than later and give you meaningful reps with good route running ability. He's probably steps into that tight end room as their best route runner from the get-go. So why not take a leap on it and hope that it works out for you? Back on the clock at pick 238, though, we are looking to see what we've got on the board. I'm a big Malachi Moore fan. If you've been watching any of these mock drafts, you've seen me take him in a few spots, but I want to see what else we've got here. So maybe we can talk about a different player. Joshua Gray from Oregon State is a fun interior piece. Kyron Lacey, I think, is an intriguing wide receiver this late. So is Hancock as a safety. We're going to grab ourselves a corner. Tommy Hill's a guy I've been mocking to a lot of teams late, and I think he's definitely got to be drafted somewhere in the 6th, 7th round. He may not be the most elite athlete, but he's just such a good ball hawk. He's one of those guys that you can put in a few different roles because you've seen him throughout his career play wide receiver, be a returner. I mean, he's just a very intelligent football player that I think taking this late could be really good for a team like Washington that could use some depth, could use a guy that could step in and help in that DB room. Do you play him at safety? Do you play him at corner? It really depends on how they like him in that defense, but I think he's a great pick here in the 7th round. Back on the clock at 250, this is our final pick. We're just going to see what we've got on the board, and I mean, it's hard not to go after another offensive lineman here. I really like a lot of the offensive linemen that are still sitting on the board. We grabbed a linebacker. We could grab a wide receiver if free agency doesn't bring us anybody back in. I would be surprised if it doesn't, but maybe they look for a younger guy to develop that's on a rookie deal. I could see that. Howard Cross is a guy that I love, especially this late, so we're going to draft him as an athletic interior defensive lineman that might be able to flex a little with his size and his athletic ability, his burst, his bend. He could kind of play a variety of roles, so I don't mind doubling up on defensive line by grabbing us an edge and grabbing us an interior defensive lineman that could flex, because really you could flex any of those guys. So here we've got it. We got 6 players. We got you an elite linebacker, a really high-end edge rusher. We grabbed you a tackle that could flex. We grabbed you a tight end with plus hands and route running ability. We grabbed you a very smart ball hawking corner and another defensive lineman that's very athletic. What do you guys think? Comment below. Always thank you for hanging out, and we'll talk to you later.